And we are live. How are you doing, good sir?
I'm doing wonderful. Welcome back to Common Sense with Matthew Colvin and myself, Jeremiah Stevenson. How's it going today, sir?
It's good. It's good. It's been a very busy couple of months, as you can...
Oh, yes.
And our viewers are probably aware of.
Oh, yes. But we're back for this episode, at least.
It's a special. You know, hey, if fucking Charlie Brown could do one...
Hey,
If
yeah.
the Grinch... Well, the Grinch... The whole thing is that the Grinch is one. But, you know,
Yeah.
it's like... If everybody under the sun can do a Christmas special, we can
We can, too. So, that's what this is? Okay.
In all seriousness, though, I know it's for our listeners out there, thank you for your loyalty and
Patience.
yes.
Oh, my God, patience.
This hiatus was not planned, as you probably could already tell. I had a lot of stuff going on my end. I know
I
Jeremiah,
definitely had a lot of stuff on my end, too. It was...
Life just kind of consumed us for a little bit. Although, you know, a part of me is like, you know, the little OCD part of me is just like, oh, shit, I haven't been posting bi-weekly. But I'm just like, you know what? Fuck that. I've been posting since bi-weekly between the end of May and whenever in like November when we stopped.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you know, okay, is it perfect? No, but we've got something and we kept that track up. And, you know, I'm sorry that we didn't get to have more than one more episode for the rest of the year, but this is a very, very important one to me. This is a very dear friend of mine. She has been there for me through some tough times and is incredibly intelligent and just fun. And we're recording this intro post podcast.
Yes.
So
we just had to experience some goodness that you guys get to listen to and dabble and be a part of.
A couple things I wanted to mention. I don't know exactly when at the beginning of the year we will resume, and I'm not going to commit to the bi-weekly thing. We'll do what we can, but, you know, we both got lives and we both got other projects. We are going to do... I know we've been neglecting the Black Lagoon stuff like mad, and that hasn't been intentional, just busyness. What we've decided we're going to do is sometime near the beginning of the year, we're going to sit down and do a Black Lagoon special.
Where we have already watched all the episodes and like actually take down notes and then come back to you all with every episode, the name of each episode.
And the OVA.
And the OVA, so that you can follow along and be like, what y'all doing?
And the manga, which I believe the new volume of that should be coming out. And
They're still doing manga for it?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Dude, okay, so...
Is this like some, what is it called? Monkey D. Luffy shit? Where they're like 18 million chapters later?
No, because Black Lagoon is very much just... They've only gotten to 11 so far.
Okay.
And 12 just came out and took them 3 years to do 12.
Oh, okay, cool. Sweet.
I'm hoping he wraps it up soon. But that's this is all stuff for that future episode.
Yeah.
In the meantime, this is our Christmas / holiday / end of the year special. It's very special for multiple reasons for me, and I think we experienced some wonderful things, and I hope you can get just as much from it as we did. So,
sit down, grab a cup of coffee or some hard liquor, and enjoy.
I guess it's been a while.
It's been a while.
we
Welcome back to Common Sense.
we had a little hiatus for a couple probably it's been about a month and a half or so.
I'd say about a month and a half. It was like a month for my show, and then I think a month and a half for us. So it's been like, oh,
This has been crazy, you know, the year winding up and everything. But
it definitely got busy towards the end of December. Towards the beginning of December, and like now I feel like it's starting to like slow down a little bit now that Christmas is coming out.
mm-hmm.
But it's also like I kind of want to get into next year already. But I'm trying to also really enjoy like everything that's happening in right now.
I'm kind of the same way. It's like I'm trying to be present, but also it's like
Let's get out of here.
it's like I want this shit to be done.
Yeah.
But I guess to not neglect our guest any longer, this woman has been a very good friend of mine for almost a year now, and I've learned a lot from her and her great knowledge. And I was excited that we were going to have this is our season finale for 2019, and I couldn't think of a better way to close it out than my dear friend Carolyn Tucker. How are you doing, Carolyn? Welcome to the
Hi,
show.
I'm doing great, Matt and Jeremiah. How are you guys?
Doing wonderful. Enjoying the day thus far. I love the weather outside right now. I really do.
I'm enjoying it. I just wish it would make up its mind.
That's true.
Today.
Well, I'm trying to think how to
So,
dive in.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Carolyn.
I am a psychotherapist and I specialize in trauma and anxiety. I see adolescents, young adults, about maybe that's a third of my practice. Then I do couples work. I have a specialty in LGBTQ issues as well. So, yeah, and I'm a mother of 3 amazing kids
Aw.
and a music lover as well.
Ooh.
And
Give us a little rundown of music. What do you enjoy about music? Do you play instruments or anything?
oh God, I wish I did. I am a festival junkie.
Oh, really? Well,
You should see her Instagram. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, I try to see live music once a week, at least a handful of times a month. But the big festivals are my thing. We've already got tickets for Bonnaroo and for
Nice.
Shaky Knees, and we're looking towards Electric Forest maybe this year. So,
Nice. Do you ever go to Music Midtown?
yep.
Awesome.
We
Me and my
do.
girlfriend went this past year. I went also last year, but my girlfriend is a festival junkie also. So she's been taking me all over Atlanta to the different festivals and just different shows.
Yeah, Music Midtown was good this year,
It
huh?
was really good. Yeah, it was really good. So how long have you been in the therapy business? Or it's not a business, sorry.
The field.
The field of therapy.
I have been in the field since 2009.
Ooh, okay.
So I came to it as a grown-up.
Okay.
I was stay-at-home homeschooling mom of 4.
Hey, I was homeschooled all the way through.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I homeschooled them all the way up and then got divorced. And I had been the mom that, all of the kids who cut would come to, and all of the, the kids who were in the closet and needed help kind of, talking to their parents about it and stuff. And when I realized that I had to get a grown-up job, it was the logical career choice for me.
Was it something where it just popped in your head, or did somebody suggest it, or was it just something where you had this overwhelming sense of like, this is the right thing to do?
It was such a calling. There was no other, I really had no other option. When I realized, oh, you're going to have to get a job, this was it. You got to go to school. So I went to graduate school in 2006 and graduated in 2009 and have been loving the field ever since.
Is it cool if I totally like get you to plug your nonprofit, or are you still kind of keeping that on like the down low?
Oh, love to. I'd love to. So we have a nonprofit. It's called Haven Wellness Services. And one of the wonderful things that Haven is going to be doing for the city of Atlanta is that we're going to be opening a nonprofit coffee house for LGBTQ adolescents and young adults. So we're super excited about that. It's going to be called Maxwell's House after my oldest son, who died of an accidental overdose 6 years ago. So Max wasn't gay, but he was really isolated. And I believe that kind of led to his addiction issues. And so many of the LGBTQ kids that come in are just, they don't know anybody else like themselves, and they don't have support. So I want to make kind of a living monument to my son and help some kids who are struggling have a place of belonging, help them kind of transcend isolation and to, have support in developing their identities.
That's actually something, I really like, I love that, just because my father died when I was young, and it's kind of been a thing where throughout my life I've been trying to find ways to kind of, remember him or memorialize him and everything. And it's just, that's kind of been a very consistent thing in my work too. And it's, It's the same with my grandfather. Since as of this recording, I'm editing my grandfather's documentary, which is a
Yeah.
very proud moment. It's nice to kind of like, I found at least that it's nice to take those people that had a significant impact on you and just continue to like let that shockwave of positivity like expand, like keep it going, keep like showing people that there's this warmth and that there's this awesome thing, and it all came from this one amazing person in our lives.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you've had
Yeah,
to
my
deal with
mom,
loss.
she passed away in 2016. And so going through that process, I had kind of like emotionally prepared for it. So I thought until it happened, and then it's kind of like, oh God, what's happening? Like all these things. But to also piggyback off of like doing something to make sure the stories live on from like the people that we've loved. I used to create and edit a bunch of things like all the time, and I'd always show my mom, but this was the first time I was doing something that I couldn't show her. And so I ended up taking all of the audio from like my graduation, something that she sang to me when I was a kid, and I was able to, and she called me a couple months before she passed and left me like a 3 minute message. And I put all that into one like 12-minute song, I think, 7 minute song. And I was able to play that at the funeral. And then every year after that, for like the first 2 years, I would repost it and like add video to it or add photos or something. And so like being able to let that person live on in a positive way is, I think, something that is just beautiful. And I think it also helps me to be at peace with everything that's gone down because luckily I was able to have like a positive like closure with everything that was happening at the time. So I think it's a really good testament to that.
Yeah, it's nice to have that feeling of like it's closure, but it's not like the book is closing to
Yeah.
me. It's like it's closure in the sense that's like, okay, I'm going to turn this into a strength rather than something that like cripples me. I don't know.
Hmm.
And something that I don't know. It's such a dark thing to talk about.
No, but I think
But
No,
it's a
I
reality
love
that we
it. I
live
mean,
with.
what better way to, if you have to go to the dark place, you may as well pick a flower while you're there, right?
Mhm.
So then
hell yes.
we
The
choose to
most.
make our lives count because they can't live, right? So we have
Mhm.
to double down and really, do some meaningful things.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that if you have to go through this, that finding some beauty in it, finding some meaning in it, and encouraging other people because of it, I think is
Mhm.
the best use of the pain.
Yeah. There was a song, "The Most Beautiful Things." Wait, the most beautiful thoughts are right next to the darkest. Is like I don't know. That's something that me and my girlfriend were talking about one day. It's just like if you don't ever take time to like dive within, not necessarily take that back. If you don't take the time to like explore what you are feeling and thinking, and even though it may be intensely like dark and scary and uncertain of like what it is, you can still find things about yourself that you can harness to be able to grow past whatever's going on or deal with it because there's so many ways that you can attack certain problems. I think it's very real to be able to healthily look at what's terrible in yourself and around you and being able to address it. Because if you don't address it, it's just like, I'm going to sit here and then blow up into something else.
No, it's funny you say that because there's a Marcus Aurelius quote. I'm gonna butcher it, but it's something along the lines of never let the future worry you because whenever you confront it, you will be armed with the same weapons of reason that help you defend yourself against today.
Mm.
And I feel like there's a lot of that in what you just said. And I feel like with the past and stuff, it's one of those things where it's like it kind of helps you deal with stuff in the future. Obviously, it's not necessarily like, oh yeah, okay, I know how to deal with people dying and stuff. It's
Yeah.
different every time, at least my experience. But it's like there's this comfort of like, okay, I'm not having to necessarily do this for the first time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you I feel like at least with my grandfather, I healed quicker in the sense that it's like I was sad, I was heartbroken, but it was just one of those things where the warmth never left.
Mm.
And that's my favorite thing. And like one thing we actually just did the other day was we went to the cemetery where my grandfather and my grandmother and my dad are actually buried. And I got the finale shot of my film, which is basically shot of the hilltop where they're buried, and the sun's like kind of on the other side, and I'm walking up the hill with a bouquet of flowers, and I mean, I'm not religious necessarily, but it's one of those things where this is kind of just a moment of like, okay, I see what you're doing there. Because like right when I got up to the top, right when I got like I stopped at the grave, it's like the clouds part and this ray of sunlight came down. I'm just like, production value, divine intervention, whatever. It's gonna look good. That's what it is, you know.
That's beautiful.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about is obviously getting into this field. You have to hear a lot of people's, for lack of a better term, bullshit. How do you separate yourself from that? Like, how do you go home each day and like kind of like hang up the coat and it's like, okay, I'm at home, Carolyn, as opposed to I'm therapist Carolyn.
It is literally the honor of my life to sit with people and to hear their stories. So I love what I do so much. I mean, I think that we're all, if we're all one, right, then, today is, maybe my only opportunity to get curious and find out about the 25-year-old male me sitting over in the chair. Mm-hmm. So just, learning about people's experiences and, finding out how they deal with things and seeing people conquer the obstacles that are in their paths. It's such an encouragement every day. Sometimes it can get heavy. I actually have rituals that I do. When I go into the therapy room, I have some things that I do where I'm literally putting on the therapist. And when I come home, I go to the same sink every day and I wash it off. And I become the mom again, the dog owner, right? I was going to say the girl, I guess, maybe the woman, but the person that lives at the house, as opposed to the therapist. So yeah, ritual.
There's something. It's funny that you say that because I recently started. I think in September. Every night I go to bed, I turn my phone off.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just one of those things where, okay, like, of course, I love her to death, but she is also like a worry wart. So it's just like, well, what if somebody needs to get a hold of you? I was like, well, I said, Ashley probably doesn't like this, but I said, you can call her because her phone is on. I'm not going to tell her to turn hers off. But also, if it's something like truly dire, like, you can come bang on my door. It's just one of those things where I need that separation because my biggest problem I've had over the past year is really unplugging from things. Even when I have time off, it's just like I never feel like I can disengage fully with things. And I don't know, it's nice that like even someone who, helps people with their problems also has a way of like kind of removing themselves from that. Because like I humored the idea a long time ago of possibly doing therapy, but I'm the person who like I put everything on in terms of like, oh, I want to help everybody, I want to do all this stuff. But obviously there's a healthy amount where you have to like remove yourself from everything, and I don't know if I can do that. Let's just say I've had issues with that with friends in the past where it's just like, I want to help you, damn it.
Yeah, it's definitely a learned skill. So it's something that you could learn. You just have to realize that if you don't take care of yourself, you can't do the things for other people that you want to. And it's about boundaries, right? I create these boundaries surrounding, with friends even, right? I create a boundary so that I can love you and love me too, I guess.
I think like my story for this year, because I just started therapy, I think in like May or June. I was doing a grief recovery project actually, and going through that process, we were looking at my mom being like, this is the thing that you've been doing your grief recovery for, is that relationship. But then we found out that it would be on my older brother because our relationship had deteriorated and so forth. And so in the process of doing that, I found out other things about myself and my life, and I was like, that's fucked up. I should probably go to therapy. So I ended up, I've been going since May or June.
I think June's when at least that's when you first told me about
it. Like May or June. And it's been really wonderful because, like you, people come to me all the time, like about everything. Like work stuff and then like friend stuff. And so my girlfriend's like, stop caring about everybody. I'm like, this is who I am.
How
And
I'm
so,
here.
yeah. And so learning how to be able to withdraw from everything, but know that it's okay because I have to recharge myself for myself, not just to be a source for other people. It's also for me because if I'm not there, I can't have any, what's the word I want to use? I can't fully be me if
Yeah,
I
like
don't.
engaged.
Yeah, I can't be engaged with myself if I'm always engaged with others. And so that's one of the things that I think I've learned, especially like with work, because I take work home with me all the time. So
Mhm.
like learning how to, hey, it's 5:30. This may be super important, and because it's film, sometimes it is super important. But it's
Yeah.
gotten to a point where I can judge. I can look at an email and be like, oh, it's 8:30. This can wait until the morning instead of, oh my gosh, they just need a picture. It's like 10:30 at night. They don't need it for 3 weeks, but okay, I'm gonna do it now. Like learning how to gauge the importance of things has been something that has like I've really learned over this year, and being able to express
Oh,
myself to someone else has been awesome.
how to end the day, right? How
Yeah.
to, yeah, especially for people who work at home.
Hmm.
That's kind of a big deal. I know, Matt, that you do a lot of your work at home, right?
Oh
So,
God, like as you can probably somewhat see, I have oh, I forgot well, there's a brachiosaurus in the chair behind me, I guess. But yeah, so I have my like little man cave here, but it's one of those things where I do sometimes feel like I'm a loony in a loony bin and I can't escape it. It's just one of those things where, you know, you got to have some separation from all of it, and it, like you said, it's really hard when, okay, I'm coming home from home. It's it's a
well,
challenge for sure.
Mr. Rogers, right? Or you light a candle or something to symbolize the end of the day so that your brain knows, hey, I am now not work Matt anymore. I'm home Matt.
I've told Ashley probably loves this. I've told her that like after I think it's after 5 o'clock, unless it's like something that like this documentary I'm trying to have done by Christmas, but unless it's something where I'm not being told by someone else to do it, like 5:30 is my when I turn my giving a fuck meter off, because it's just like no, all I give a fuck between now and going to bed is Ashley coming home, me cooking dinner, or we figuring out whatever dinner is, and then just winding down. And if that's me sitting and vegging on the couch and watching 3 episodes of Family Guy back to back, I'm not going to apologize for that. You know?
Well, you have to, I mean, we're each here for the purpose of gathering experience for ourselves, right? And, people talk about being selfish. I'd love to know who made that a bad word, because self is what we're here to do. And we're here to create, the most densely ramified self that we can create. And so self-care is a big part of that. And if vegging and watching Family Guy is your thing, great. If music is your thing, yay. If hiking is your thing, whatever. I mean, we lose the idea that we work to live, right? So the living is the important thing. Sometimes the work, becomes the thing, and then it's like the tail's wagging the dog.
Yeah, that's wow. See,
Wow.
every time it's like my perspective changes on things. One thing I wanted to ask you about, kind of like segueing a little bit, is one thing, at least in my experience, I've noticed is that, and of course the media is not helping this, but it's just like we're kind of in a very negative time, and like people are so quick to judge others and be crappy to others and like jump on people. It's like, well, if you don't believe exactly what I believe, I have to hate you and therefore fear you, or some equation of that. Like, have you seen a reflection of that in your work?
Yeah. Um, yes. You brought up several different points. Yes. Um, I'm seeing a lot of people really depressed, lack of connection, right? I'm so busy right now because people are going home for Christmas, right? And they've got, family with political beliefs that are different than theirs, or, just, I don't know. It's overwhelming for a lot of folks. But something that I'm also seeing is younger and younger kids who are suicidal. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I think I got my first 12 and 14-year-old kids coming in post-suicide attempt.
Oh God.
Yeah, it was really overwhelming. And that's continued. And I think that, we all have all of this information coming at us so fast. And you're right, there is this big focus on the negative and on division and on, us and them. And I think that contributes certainly to the adults, feelings of depression and disenfranchisement. And for the kids, I think that they just have so much information that's developmentally inappropriate for them to be exposed to, right?
Yep.
There's a television show. Am I allowed to mention the name of a television show?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, 13 Reasons Why. Do you guys know that show?
I haven't watched.
I watched the second. I actually watched the first season, and I kind of sat in there and watched the second season with her, and then I watched the third season, and I just as a storyteller, I really liked what they were doing until the end. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? But sorry, continue.
Well, I don't think I've seen the third season. I watched the first season after my nephew, who was 12, 13, had said that he watched it, and I had a client come in and say that they had watched it, and I thought, this needs to be on my radar. Everything starts with 13-year-olds. We think that we're super cool and that we're on the cutting edge of everything. No, it's these kids get it first, and it feeds up. But yeah, I watched it, and the show is about Jeremiah, about a high school kid. She takes 6 cassette tapes and records front and back. Each side of a tape tells the story about why she's committing suicide, and it's directed at one person each side of the tape.
Okay.
Really graphic, shows her commit suicide, shows her mother finding her, which as the mother of a kid who's died, that was, really mind-blowing. So yeah, things that are hard to handle, and little kids who have no skills, no coping abilities, or watching these kind of things for fun. And I think that they set out to do the show to raise suicide awareness, which I loved. I don't think anybody was aware that there would be kind of copycat, from it.
I guess on that, what's something in terms of like either television, film, or I know definitely music, for you that's really either been therapeutic for you, has really spoken to you as far as having something of a deeper meaning?
Oh wow. Gosh, I'm all about growth. So I'm constantly reading, anything from, books on Buddhism to books on psychedelics in the 60s to, stories of people that I admire. And I love movies along those lines too. I tell you, a spiritual experience that I had this summer was getting to see the Rolling Stones for the first time.
Oh wow.
Whoa.
That was flipping life-changing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they're just, it's whatever speaks to your spirit, right? That whatever nurtures you or feeds you. So those are my things. What are yours?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that. That's great, because I have, after you said that, I have one.
Well, something that resonated with me, I think I've mentioned this to both of you, is Man of Steel is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I know in the comic book community it's not necessarily the most embraced because comic book people are kind of snobs and assholes, and I can say that because it's our podcast and y'all are fucking assholes. But and I'm one of you. But but no, I've always loved that movie from the instant I saw it, because I saw it 4 days before my 20th birthday. And within a week of me graduating college, and I was absolutely terrified of, the world, where my place was in it. I didn't know who I was and all this stuff. And to see fucking Superman, of all people, going through these same vulnerabilities and insecurities meant the fucking universe to me. And so, when people start giving that movie crap, I'm like, hey, fuck you. But no, it's one of those. That's one of them. And then recently, I rewatched The Road with Viggo Mortensen, and I read the book back. I first read the book and saw the movie in 2009 at the same time. It's funny how that year seems to be significant for people.
Yeah.
But I need to watch that movie so badly because because it's about a father and a son and post-apocalyptic, and they never really get into how it happened because who gives a shit? They're living in this shitty world. It shouldn't matter how it happened. But it's all about like the father just trying to protect his son, and then he's just very slowly learning that he can't. But the best thing he can do is show his son that he can protect himself, and that's just something that, especially having lost my father, something that really resonated with me. And it's amazing how, in the sense of a movie, it's like it's literally light coming out of a projection booth and you're hearing sounds coming out of a speaker, and it's all make believe, but it's like it can really have a strong impact, and it can really like transcend just the act of just sitting there and watching it. And one last thing is for what's been a kind of a small tradition for the past 2 or 3 years between me and my stepfather, who I've gotten so much closer to over the past like few years. It's amazing. But we've been on Christmas Eve. It's always been on TV, and we watch It's a Wonderful Life. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. It's such a damn near perfect movie, if you ask me. I'm gonna get choked up, Jesus. But yeah, it's my mom can't watch it with us because she said it just makes her cry. I'm like, it makes you cry, but it's so earned. But yeah, they are actually at the theater near my parents' house this year on Christmas Eve. They're actually showing the movie in the theater.
Are you gonna go see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I literally called Mike last night, and I was just like, look, I've been struggling to figure out what to do for Christmas for you, but I decided that I think this needs to be a thing. And so they're doing a showing on Sunday, and then they're doing a show on Christmas Eve. We're going to just see which one works better, but we're definitely going to do that. And he was like ecstatic about it.
Nice.
And it's just
Wonderful.
it's just nice to have those things that you can like really connect with people with, and something, especially when it's something near and dear to you. You know?
Absolutely.
What about yours, sir?
I have two. The first one is more recent. I went to go see Tyler, the Creator, when he came to Atlanta, and his album Igor is probably, for me, it is the best album of the year because it's just a wonderful piece of art that is conceptual, and it deals with feelings of love and anger and trying to find. It deals with like the unhealthy side of emotion, but also getting back to that place of like, my love's gone, but I've learned a lot and I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And like that, I feel like if I had had that album when I was in high school, I feel like I would be a different kid. Probably more understanding of other people because I am very understanding now, but I don't know. That just being at the concert and hearing the entire stadium sing My Love's Gone, it's just the way that everyone knew it, and I had not listened to his music until like the day before. And so like it was really just, it was an experience, and it was mind-boggling. And I still listen to like live performances from that people have put on YouTube. Earthquake, he actually does a whole piano intro to it, and then the song. So I took the song and the piano intro and edited them together. But that just, it was a real thing for me to feel all the emotion through what was sonically given to us, and to be able to see it live was just, it was interesting because I went to the show like, it's one person. What is this dude gonna do other than flail around stage yelling? And like that's exactly what he did, but he did it in such a way that it expressed so much emotion and so much energy that it was like, oh man, I get you. Because then like a month later, I went and saw another group, and it was like 6 dudes, and I'm like, oh, terrible. It's like y'all are just like running around on stage like chickens with their heads cut off. Like, what are you doing?
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
Just in terms of musical experiences, I'm not much of a concert guy just because I'm very introverted. It's like there's people and loud sounds and they're around me, and I'm just like, ah! I can appreciate live music for sure. Like I have like live like videos and films and shit. But one of the few concerts I have done recently was Ashley treated me to this when we were living in Houston. We went and saw the Houston Symphony Orchestra play the score to Raiders of the Lost Ark in sync with the movie as it was playing. And I've, like...
You loved that so much. I know this before you even said.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was just like I've heard that music since I was like 8. And like, you know, I've heard it coming out like TVs and stuff. I've seen the movie in the theater a couple of times, but it's just like if you cut me open, I had to believe music to be John Williams. But it's like to actually be in like in a I don't know, like a venue. I'm seeing the movie, but all the music I'm hearing is coming from all the people on the stage from those instruments. There's just like no recording can ever match that. And that made me really appreciate like people who are really into live music like y'all are, because it's just like you're experiencing this rather than just, okay, I'm going to walk around with my beats and listen to this shit. You know, it was very transcendent, and just like hear all of it was.
I like to think of like live music as it's almost like watching a chef cook food, because you're getting to partake of the final product, but with music you're experiencing the cooking as it's happening. So like you get to experience both sides of that. I think that's
Benihana up and
you know, it's the live music experience. Man, I'm an introvert too, a really strong introvert.
My girlfriend's a hellish introvert.
Yeah, and I don't do groups of people, but in a crowd like that where you don't have to interact with them, it's almost like the energy lifts me up in a way that if I had to sit around and talk to a bunch of people, I would be exhausted. I went to Austin City Limits this year, ACL, and was at Childish Gambino's last performance ever.
He's retired?
For the second time.
So, yeah. But, you know, at the beginning, he's like, I'm going to take you all to church. And boy, howdy, did he. And there's this feeling of connection, you know, to everybody in the venue. And you've got all of these beautiful people around you who are wrapped up in the music and wrapped up in the message and all focused on the same thing, this focused attention. You know, it makes me wonder if we could get the whole world to have that experience and to focus on something really good, what we could create.
Amen. Yeah. Oh my God, like if we could all just like shut the fuck up and just come together. I don't mean to be so profane, but that's our podcast. But it's just like, honestly, if everybody could just like come together and just have this moment where it's just like, quit trying to like nitpick everything, just sit here and experience this with everybody and just see like, okay, yeah, that person voted for so-and-so and this person voted for so-and-so, but you're sitting here in a venue enjoying amazing music in this experience.
On my last podcast, we had a veteran who was in the Marines. So she was talking about how she likes to go to cemeteries of fallen soldiers that are unnamed and like sit there and spend time there and like think about them and like give love. But one of the things we talked, she had just that day gone to a Confederate thing, a Confederate graveyard. And so we were talking about that whole aspect. And one of the things that me and a friend were having a conversation about last year, a Halloween party, that's stupid. It was that there's this kid that was like, yeah, with everything that's going on, like we're about to like, you know, go to war with each other. It's like the next Civil War. And my friend whose dad is in the Coast Guard, and like when I was a kid, I thought the Coast Guard wasn't great, but like the Coast Guard like does some crazy intense stuff. It's pretty cool. He was like, no, like we are not ready to go against each other. Like brothers are not ready to fight. Like cousins, like we, as much as we deny it, we are still very much a united country. As much as we are as much as we differentiate idealistically, we are still very much family within this country, and no one's ready to go and spill blood of their cousin or sister or like any of that. No one's ready for that. Why did I say all that? All that to say,
I went to the Confederate.
Yeah, the Confederate monument.
I just wanted to throw one thing in that. It was the Joe Rogan podcast you told me to listen to.
Oh yeah.
It's the I forget the name of the woman, but it's one of the candidates for president, and she's sitting there and she's saying I forget who the other guy is, but the other guy they were both veterans, and I really just love that. I can't remember his name, but I'm terrible with what?
Jocko.
There you go.
Podcast.
He said like when people were like freaking, and I'm not about to make this political, but it's just like when people were freaking about Trump getting elected. It was one of those things where he basically said that either someone said this to him or he said this to other people. Is it's like we as a country are bigger than one man. Mm-hmm. We're not going to fall over and just rot because this guy got in the office. And that was just a very profound thing to me. It's just like it's the truth though. Like look at what we're doing right now. We're three different people from three different lives who are sitting here having a conversation about really deep, profound, universal shit.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's the thing. Like no one. because one of the things I like to say is like the media just shoves so much of stuff to get us away from each other. It's like we all live lives that are very much alike, not necessarily the same, but like, and people have different experiences, but we all are very much universal people, and that we experience most of the same thing. And in that experience, you can sympathize with somebody else. So by not taking the time to sympathize with you, I'm hurting myself because your experiences may be able to help me, or Carolyn's experiences may be able to help me. So that's why, like, let's talk to each other. Like, let's figure out why we did what we did in the situation, or if we were in that situation, how we would go through it. So that if you can talk it out, like the whole Joker thing, like about the whole movie thing.
We disagree on the new Joker movie heavily.
But last night, me and Lee were getting pictures taken with Brandon, our photographer friend, and I was able to articulate in the most precise and effective way everything that I had been feeling and had been talking about with you. But unless I talked to you about it, I wouldn't have been able to do it in like 30 seconds. Whereas with you, we had like several long conversations, and I was trying to learn how to articulate it. So by doing that, having that like little struggle with you, and like it was friendly, but like having that little struggle with you allowed me to be able to properly and concisely give an idea to somebody else. So like, if we don't take the time to sympathize with people, and even though we disagree on some things, we still should be able to have these conversations that can lead us to a place of
just better.
Yeah, I was like, you know, like,
well, understanding or empathy, or you know, even if we don't agree, respect for the fact that, you know, we're each autonomous selves and we're entitled to have opinions, and even if they're different, you know, we're each entitled to them. So having respect for the selfness or the me-ness of the other, I think is really important.
I had a struggle with this recently. I won't name names because I'm not that guy, but I got into a debate with somebody over Star Wars of all things, so that it was bloody. But but no, long story short, the person is just very much not a fan of the films since Disney took over making them, and I love everything that they've done, and I continue to love it. And also, I feel like sometimes people forget the prequels happen. Just saying. But anyway, no, it was something where what finally ended the conversation was they just kept, even though they're like, well, it's okay for you to like it, but it's basically, I'm going to sit here and lecture you as to why you're wrong. And in the immortal words of Rick Sanchez, don't tell me how to enjoy things. Like that like, funny enough, it took a Rick and Morty episode for that to really stick with me. It's just like, I don't have to sit here and tell people, or I don't have to, like, it's not a fucking courtroom where I have to sit here and justify my shit to other people. It's like, no. And, you know, and guess what? Why can't we just, like, okay, for example, I'm not a fan of Doctor Who. I know I have a number of friends who love Doctor Who. I've tried it. It's just not my thing, but I'm thrilled that they enjoy it. And you know what the thing is? It's not like every time I see a sonic screwdriver, I'm like, fuck that show. I'm like, I see a sonic screwdriver, some Doctor Who merchandise somewhere. I'm like, I want to get that for my friend because that makes them happy. Why can't, I'm not saying like, oh yeah, I am the best thing ever, but it's just like, why can't we do more of that kind of shit, you know?
Yeah,
but I want to, sorry, I totally like derailed your Confederate.
Oh no,
I want to hear what that was.
So that basically was the. First of all, for those of us listening, go back and listen to the episode with Tatiana Sappardino on Perspectives with Caroline Stevenson. But
we get him to plug his podcast all the time.
But it was, the whole thing was basically boiling it down to they were still people too, and we don't look at that, especially now that we're moved, and especially the Black community. It's just like, Confederates, fuck them, you know, they hate Black people. Like, yeah, like there were a lot of those people, but there were also, we talked about on the episode, like, some people just happen to be in a place where, okay, I have to defend myself. Because if you had the Union start just invading your land, you're going to be like, well, what do? I'm going to shoot back at you.
Yeah, it's like, well, they're burning all the cities leading up to mine. Right. I'm going to defend
defend my land. So it wasn't just entirely, and yes, like there's the whole thing where it's like the Civil War wasn't just about slaves, and like yes, I agree with that, but that was the big issue. But there was also the like, if you look at it on just a man-to-man level, if you were trying to like bust into my house, do you want me to just sit there and be like, you're like, oh, Jeremiah, I'm gonna come in your house and I'm gonna take your roommate Jackson because he's pretty cool, and I'll be like, no, he's my roommate, I'm gonna fight back. Like, I feel like I'm defending. I'm not trying to defend the Confederacy, but
I get your point.
But my point is to put yourself in the shoes. And that's one of the things that I think that people fail to do nowadays, is to put themselves in that other person's shoes. So, yeah.
Well, wow. See, we're getting. I love how deep this is, because this is exactly what I want.
He said I have two. So you gave
Oh, I did
Right.
do get number one. Okay, number two, piece of art that has really, really spoken to me, is the cartoon show Avatar: The Last Airbender. I've been watching a lot of YouTube retrospectives, and the character, I very much relate to Zuko, like as a teenager, but as I'm getting older, I think I still do relate to Zuko, because he had a unhealthy relationship with his father, and there was a lot of abandonment within him, and he was trying to strive for that acceptance from his father, but in the process he was neglecting his uncle Ira, who lost a son and wanted to be a father figure to him, because he realized he didn't have that, and so he just gave him unconditional love and let that little dude do what the fuck he wanted to. And in the process, Zuko was able to find, like, this is who I am, like, I don't need this person's toxicity and their acceptance to define who I am as a person. And so, like, that was something that was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. I was listening to a retrospective the other day about Uncle Iroh, and I was crying in my car on the way to work, because they talked about just the selflessness that he had, and the way, there's this one episode that tells Bossing Say, where each character has like 7 minutes or 4 minutes of their own little story, and his story takes place on the day his son died. So he goes through a day of helping this little boy, this teenager, and this older man, all at different points in their lives. And at the end, he goes to his son's grave and he sings a song. And he's like, if I could only have helped you. And I'm like, oh, like,
boy, howdy, Jeremiah.
yeah.
As the therapist mom of a kid with addiction issues who
Yeah.
died, that's the truth.
Yeah. And so it hit me on the way to work. And that show in its entirety is just, growth is such a huge thing about that show. And I think they do it in such a well expressed way. I think it should be recognized.
So what, for you guys, what does growth look like? What where are you on your path? What types of tools do you use? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
Ooh, this is a great question. For me, growth right now is mostly because I can't say just started dating. I've been dating for 9 months. Yeah, me and Leah have been together for 9 months now. For me, growth has been learning how to interact with another person that is so close and so intimate with you, and learning how to be truthful to yourself, but also respect them and their wishes, and respect them and their time, respect them and their emotions, respect them and their ability to do things. Like, one of the things that I was doing when we first started dating was like, I expect this because, like, I see all this potential, but learning how to love her for who she is right now, and like, that is someone who she can be if she chooses to be that, and she can be a trillion different. Oops, sorry, on top of my hands. She can be a trillion different things, but learning how to love her for who she is and not just who I want to see her become. That was like a huge thing, and really, like, learning that was talking to other people and talking to my therapist and bringing that up. Um, I don't know. I feel like I used to read a lot as a kid, but now that I'm older, I don't. I just talk to people from different walks of life all the time, and I found that it's just as good as reading a book sometimes.
There's a quote by George R. R. Martin that he says, like, I'm not trying to say this as a jab, like, fuck you, you need to read more.
Yeah.
But it's like, I like the whole, he said, sorry, I'm butchering this. He said, a man who never reads only lives one life. A man who reads lives 1,000 lives. And I thought that was just I think that transcends just books in general. It's just like, if you can engage with different things other than just your perspective,
Mm-hmm.
it can really, like, change things. Like,
I think that people are like walking books, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got a whole story sitting there in front of you. I mean, be curious about it. We're all living these lives behind our own windshields. And, there's a philosopher named Byron Katie. She says no two people have ever really met, because we've got the masks, right, that we wear to try to to win the other over, or to, whatever our purpose is in the exchange. And really getting curious about what the authentic experience of the other is, I think, is a very beautiful, and you can learn from what others do, so you don't have to go through some of the pain that.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's such a real thing.
Yeah,
That is such a real thing.
I grow every day just by listening to people talk about mistakes that they've made. So yeah, I do think that reading books, talking to people, Matt, I see movies through your eyes, and it's, you relate them in a way that brings them to life. And I know they're supposed to be, life on the screen, but you really have such a poetic way of setting the scene. And you're obviously a filmmaker. You set the scene, you bring in the tight camera angle, and you say the line, and it just hits right at the heart every time.
Yeah, he does that a lot. It's great. Like I love the way you verbalize that, because it is literally like watching a movie through your eyes, and I think that's wonderful. That's really cool. I love that.
I fucking love y'all. Thank you. I needed that. Holy crap.
You give to us, because I don't see it that way. And, the way that you share it, it really makes it, I don't know, makes beautiful points. And then I want to go watch the movie so I can see it how you just said it.
Well, it's funny that you say, like, go back and watch the movie after hearing someone talk about it, because I had a movie that I didn't like, or I've had movies in the past I didn't like, but then someone told me about a different perspective with them, and then I go back and watch it, and I can't not see that perspective with it, and I'm like, oh my god, this is awesome, and it's, even if it's something I didn't like originally. I know I kind of asked a version of this earlier, but I guess, what is either a story you've read that really struck you, or what is a person you met that struck you? You don't have to necessarily name them, but just and what about it struck you?
Let me think.
Meanwhile, please also think about, why are we here? Why was the universe?
Okay, yeah. Yeah. So a person that's, lately I've had a lot of curiosity, because in my field, I don't know if you guys know this or not, Matt, I can't remember if we've discussed it, but there's a lot of research being done on psychedelics right now in the clinical application. And they're looking at LSD and MDMA and psilocybin mushrooms. So these drugs have been illegal since the 60s. And we've got some amazing research coming out right now. We've got breakthrough status on a psilocybin and depression study, double breakthrough status. We've got breakthrough status on a study that they're doing on veterans with PTSD and MDMA. 2 doses of MDMA in an integration session, right? So it's led by a therapist in a certain environment. You do preparation work, you do the trip, then you do integration afterwards. 2 times for that, for the veterans, it's either 63 or 68% of them no longer meet the criterion for PTSD.
Wow.
We have 2,000 veterans a day in our country that commit suicide. Can you imagine the lives that this is going to change, and the domestic violence that, some of these vets with PTSD, through no fault of their own, but the experiences they've had for us, right? So I have been doing a lot of reading about the original pioneers, the people who either discovered these molecules or who experimented with these plants. And so, I mean, who was the first person that saw a mushroom growing on some cow dung and said, hey, I bet that's a good time? And Terrence McKenna is somebody that I'm fascinated with. If you guys don't know him, you should listen to some of his lectures. He died in 2000, but he wrote a book called Food of the Gods, and talks about man evolving, and they can tell by cave drawings that there was a certain time where men started interacting with plants, whether it was cannabis or mushrooms, and at that point, then tools start showing up in the cave drawings. And they believe that language developed because of interacting with the plant. So I'm really curious about our brains and how these plants that have evolved alongside of us, you know, are going to help people. So that probably wasn't the type of answer that you're looking for.
No, I think that's
Actually, it
amazing.
was like this is like I want something that was kind of outside the box of things, and that you know that like normally our show is basically us just sitting here and shooting the shit about like just like nerdy stuff and entertainment, but I wanted this to be like again kind of harkening back to the whole "It's a Wonderful Life" thing. I think it's kind of fitting personally that you're talking about tools to kind of like deal with things. Is it's like that's kind of been my end of the year thing because it's like. That story reminds me of like why it's important to remember the good things in life and how good they really are. And at the end of the day, they really do outweigh any of the bad shit, even though the bad shit can be pretty daunting sometimes. And I think that's a great way to kind of see that and kind of in order to reset for the new year. And that's why it was so important for me that this was our episode because it's like, I think everybody could use you know, a healthy reset of some kind.
One of the things I do at the end of every year, now that we're talking about the end of the year, at the end of every year, I write a letter to myself. I write a letter to my future self about all the things that I'm like grateful that I did this year, what are some things that I want to see myself grow in. And then I always like take like a paragraph to just talk about how awesome I am and how much I love myself. And then I open it up every like the following year. So I need to find my one that I wrote last year. Because it really gives you a perspective of yourself. It's outside yourself. So you can see, oh, I've done all these things. Like like living in your body, you just experience every day and every day and every day. Sometimes it does well to just stop and be like, let's take inventory of what I'm actually doing. Like, and so you can look at, oh, so I was doing this last year and I completed this, totally forgot about this. I knew this person, but I don't know them anymore. Or I knew this person, now they're doing this. Like being able to I love that. So that's what I'm going to be doing at the end of this year.
Jeremiah, do you find when you go back and look at those that you see, you know, times that at the time felt really tough and now you look back and like, why did I even worry about that?
Yes, absolutely. I literally was talking to, I think it was Brandon last night, and I was like, you know how like sometimes there's something that you need to do and it's stretching you, but you just don't see it the way that it actually is. So you in fact hurt yourself trying to get it done. But once you're on the other side of it, you're like, oh my gosh, if I had just like done this, it would have been cool. It wouldn't have been as much of a struggle. Like exactly thinking that. Yeah, no, that's something that I think is wonderful. Like see past tense, but it's something to be aware of so that you can, when you address a problem, you're like, oh, before I do this, what are the ways can I attack it and kind of resolve it?
Yeah, I always like to think in the middle of a situation, how do I want to be remembered in history?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, to remember the idea that this too shall pass.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's, you know, going back to the suicide theme, I think that that's something that people forget.
Mm-hmm.
That life is just cycles, and if you just hang on long enough, you're gonna be in a new one, and that there's always, you know, just the way that the night follows the day, and then the day follows the night. The light always comes out. Without the darkness, we wouldn't have the contrast to know that it was actually light, right?
Absolutely.
Wow.
We wouldn't know the good times. We wouldn't know that they were good.
There's a scene in the Two Towers. It's at the end of the movie where one of the characters, Sam, he says to Frodo when they're kind of losing hope, it's like, why are we doing this? We're totally not going to destroy the ring. The whole world is going to be consumed by darkness. And I'm not even going to try to like say what it is, but it's like what the scene, and it's just it kind of cuts back and forth between where all the different characters are like dealing with their conflicts and how it's kind of like the mission's not over, but we've gotten this far, we can keep going. And it's just everything you just said like reminded me of that. I was hearing the Howard Shore music in my head, and I'm just like
I'm giving my 10-year-old nephew for Christmas I'm giving him the Lord of the Rings series.
Awesome.
The books, not the movies.
No, that's still pretty great.
Mhm.
That's a good read. That's a really good read.
So excited. I can't wait to share it with him. We even, he's the big reader in all of the 11 cousins. So we connect over books, and then I take him to a coffee shop. And we sit and talk about them. We even created our own alphabet, like of just symbols, and we send each other notes back and forth with the alphabet.
That's amazing.
Before you know it, he's going to be the next Tolkien, because from what I read recently, he would come up with the written languages before he would start writing the stories, and that just blew my mind.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
So I guess Carolyn, do you have anything that you kind of like end of the year rituals you do to kind of close out the year and prepare for the new one?
Yeah, I do a couple of things. I do a vision board every year of what I want the next year to look like. So I just, cut out pictures or draw things or find quotes, whatever, and just, create something that as I'm meditating on what I want to manifest in the next year, I do that. And then every New Year's, I paint a canvas. I spread, a shower curtain on the floor, and one year it was anger. This is what anger looks like. One year it was a kind of this beautiful shaman girl. So I'm always interested to see what's going to come out of the New Year's creation. And I don't know if I started doing that because, I'm an introvert and I never have New Year's plans, and that just felt like a cool thing to do. But it has become a nice little ritual to create something for the coming year. How about you?
Well, first of all, I did not know you painted, and I'm insulted that as an artist, and I've shown you so much art that you've never told me this.
If you could see my paintings, you would understand why.
Doesn't matter. But I guess it's funny that you reference art specifically, because outside of the whole "It's a Wonderful Life" thing, this has been a tradition I've done for the past 2 years. I'm doing it again this year. I don't go to New Year's parties or anything. I'm just not a party guy. But funny enough, for New Year's Eve 2017 into 2018, I tried something I read about for years, which is like if you start watching the original Star Wars at this particular time, the Death Star will blow up right at midnight.
I've seen that. I've never done it, but that
It
looks
works. It works, and it's awesome. And so, but not just do I do that, but I including the artwork is as you both know, Carrie Fisher is one of my biggest heroes. To ignore all the stuff on the wall in the background, but not just because she was Princess Leia and my first crush, but she was also just like as a person, I just thought it was amazing how she just, defied like taboo and defied like the whole like just embrace who you are and self-care and just being comfortable with yourself. And her writings really struck me too. But funny enough, I don't know if I told you this, Carolyn will be playing Carrie Fisher's role in Raoul, if she's still up for it, of course.
Nice.
But
absolutely.
But I do a drawing of Leia every year. I did one. The first one I did, it was up like kind of a profile shot of her, and then I did even this year because it was probably the timing's not right because I was technically flying over the Atlantic when it happened. My stepdad just retired from Delta, and we were flying back from Johannesburg. But yeah, so I did another shot on the plane this year. I had to kind of finish it when I got home just because I can't keep the light on because people are sleeping. But I'm gonna do it again this year.
Nice.
And it's just nice because it's kind of like it shows me, okay, how far did you get in terms of your technical artistic ability at the end of this year, and how are you starting the new year?
Oh, that's
Because I always consider that's my first artwork of the new year. So.
love that. That's did I just see on Instagram a Carrie Fisher drawing?
Yes, I was. That's not the New Year's one, but I've been wanting to do a portrait for a little while, and I've done a little bit in my new sketchbook. I'll show it to you. It's out there. But
Really?
yeah, it's fun. Well, it also helps that like I'm getting to utilize all the techniques from the oil painting class I took earlier this year. So it's like I'm not just like I'll figure it out as I go. It's like I know the technique now. Hey, this looks good because I know what I'm doing.
Nice.
But I guess one other question I had for you, Carolyn, was what do you do in your free time when you're away from all of the?
It's really embarrassing. I just sit and think.
Really? Yeah. I can't turn my brain off, so I can't imagine.
I have a hammock out. I have some beautiful woods out behind my house, and I have a hammock back there, and I just long to be out there and to be quiet. And even, I can see clients till 10 o'clock at night. The first thing I do is come home, and if it's winter, I bundle up and grab a down comforter and head out under the stars.
Nice.
That's
awesome.
beautiful. Like, wow.
Yeah.
It's just so much to think about,
Mhm.
And as introverts, we process. And so I guess I could probably use a full day of processing for every day that I'm around people.
Dude, that's the truth. A question I asked you one time is, I feel like I'm still mentally a 16-year-old or like a 12-year-old, and I'm just like stuck in this 26-year-old's body, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing with my life. And I asked you if that changes, and I'd love for you to reiterate what your answer was.
It does not change. And if anybody tells you that it changes, they're lying to you. We all are. I have an inner 12-year-old too. At times I have an inner 16-year-old girl, but I think that 12 is about where most of us, that's when we differentiate. We become separate people from our parents, right? And no, I think that we're all just wearing grown-up shoes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Isn't that
Big
awesome?
facts. Big facts.
Yeah, and the people who are like grown-uppy grown-ups, they're not really grown-ups. I mean, we do the things, and we do the worky stuff, but inside we still are, we still hurt the same. We still hope people like us the same. We still have hopes and dreams the same. So yeah, I don't think it changes much.
See why she's so awesome.
That's exciting. I always tell people I can't wait to be 40. Like, can't wait. I can't definitely wait. But like, I don't know. I just feel like I'll be like doing stuff and running shit. Like, I'm excited for my 40s, and like to know like I'm gonna still be a young kid then. Like, that's awesome.
40 is absolutely the shit, because when you get there, you are so over what other people think of you.
Mm-hmm.
That's when freedom starts.
Mm-hmm.
So you start. It's almost like the butterfly coming out of the chrysalis, right?
Yeah.
Spread your own wings, and you don't really give a shit what anybody thinks about it. And you just, get out there and strut your stuff and fly.
Yeah.
That's actually a lesson I learned this year. Was just like, I mean, I've gradually the past couple of years learned to stop like giving a shit more and more. And I don't know, I have a closing question for all of us.
Okay.
If you had to use, if you had to describe this year of how your experience was this year in like 1 or 2 words, what would it be?
Can I use phrases?
Sure.
I crawled across glass. It's a tough year. And then I jumped out of a plane. And I actually did jump out of a plane.
What about you?
For me, it would be. I'm gonna go with phrases. For me, it would be definitely experiencing the unknown and realizing that it was very familiar.
I will go with the phrase 2, although I had it summed down to 2 words for the record. And it, of course, is a quote from Yoda, but it's really resonated with me, which is train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose.
Oh, damn. Damn.
Because I've like, that's something even in the past couple of months I've really realized is that it's like all the stuff that I think I'm actually scared of or the think actually matters if I let it go. The stuff that's like plaguing my brain, if I just let it go, I can deal with it better instead of it just being this giant monster. It's now all of a sudden like, okay, it's someone who has the same size and build as me, and I can snap them like a twig.
And one of the things my mom used to tell me, which I'll tell you, Sean Connery from Indiana Jones, the third movie, let it go, Indy. Let it go.
Yeah.
Marianne Williamson says that everything that we want is on the other side of fear.
I'm gonna add to that. In the immortal words of Carrie Fisher, be scared but do it anyway.
Love it.
Nice.
Well, Carolyn, we typically end our podcast with like, if you want to plug anything, like if it's either like social media or like, like your nonprofit. I know we already talked about that, but if there's anything you want to like talk about, this is your time.
Oh, thank you. You can see me at www.carolyntuckertherapist.com, or tuckerandassociatescoaching.com. I do coaching for adolescents and young adults, life coaching. And look forward to having Maxwell's House Coffee House in Atlanta for LGBTQ adolescents and young adults.
Cool.
Awesome. You can find me, Jeremiah, on Instagram at Parkour Geek. That is PARKOURG33K. You can also find me on YouTube at A Token's Take. That is ATOKEN''S TAKE. You can hear me on my podcast, Perspectives, with Jeremiah Stevenson, on all podcasting platforms.
You can find me on Instagram at Art of Matthew. You can find me on Twitter at The Art of Matthew, although that's a little bit more profane, just so you know. And then I think I'm just Matt Colvin on Vero. I've been kind of taking a page from Zack Snyder's book, and I'm just sharing all this stuff from all the stuff that I'm doing just to have fun with it and
Nice.
just like not taking it too seriously.
Yeah.
But I guess everybody out there, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, whatever you're celebrating. Be warm, be happy, be with people you love. And Carolyn, it has been an honor and a privilege, and I'm so thankful to call you my friend and that you made time to make this happen. Thank you.
so much. This was a real pleasure.
It was a joy. Thank you guys so much.
The following audio presentation is property of Lake House Creative, LLC. Any reference to copyrighted works is for review and commentary purposes only.